Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where in the country you are. I want to thank CACA for having us to talk about celebrating Chinese New Year in the Mississippi Delta across the years. So Sally and Gilroy Chow talking to you to welcome in the Year of the Tiger in the year 4719. It is such a pleasure to be here. And thank you for tuning in. I hope you'll be able to learn something about the Chinese in the Mississippi Delta.
I'd like to introduce to you to my husband, Gilroy Chow. Gilroy is a graduate of Mississippi State University in Starkville, Mississippi, and he graduated in engineering, industrial engineering. And after graduating from Mississippi State, he went to work for Grumman Aerospace and was selected to be part of the Apollo team working on the lunar module and the program to send man to the moon. And after the Apollo program, he came to Clarksdale, my hometown, and worked at Metso Engineering Corporation for several years until retiring.
Good, thank you. She omitted the part where I was born in Mississippi, and so I came back after growing up in New York. But let me introduce you to Sally. She's a home ec teacher and special needs teacher for 30 years. She was an organist in the church for over 60 years and a cake maker for 45 years. But we are married for over 50 years now.
51 wonderful years.
And we have children that live nearby in Memphis, Tennessee. And in Sally's picture there are our grandchildren, Jack and Emily, who are 13 and 10 now. But we want to talk to you about celebrating holidays in Mississippi. We celebrate everything from New Year's, and we don't just end with Christmas. We celebrate everything in between. We celebrate birthdays, weddings, but all the holidays, Easter. Honey, tell them about the Pang family holiday celebrations.
Oh, the Pang family celebrations are just amazing. My mom was one of 10 children, and we celebrated all the holidays at somebody's house. We'd start off with, well, let's say New Year's would be at Uncle Ngee's, and we'd have all the family at Uncle Ngee's house, and we'd at midnight, we'd all hold hands and we'd sing Auld Lang Syne, and we walk all over the house, bringing good luck to every room in the house. And then for Chinese New Year's, we'd be at Uncle Andy's. And that's where we had our first taste of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. And as I mentioned, we had Chinese New Year's at Uncle Andy's. And sometimes we would switch up around the uncles who would have the party, but that's basically who had the New Year's party. And then we had Easter at Aunt Jean's. That was the most special time of the year for so many of us, especially as children, because we had the egg hunt, which was so much fun. We'd all line up with the youngest at the beginning. And of course, the oldest had to wait until the end before they could go out to hunt eggs. But it was always a grand time of celebration, the food that was involved, and so many of us just getting together for parties. We love to have a good time.
I think it is so significant that at Aunt Jean's Easter that we went through about 5 generations of kids, and there'd be as many as 50 Easter egg hunters at one time. It got to be quite a celebration.
And we just hope that those memories will stay with our children. And then moving on, we, let's say there would be
Memorial Day, 4th of July.
The 4th of July was really fun. I believe at the beginning with Mom and her generation, I do remember going to Sardis, and they would play softball and have kind of a big picnic. And then later on with our generation, we would have a softball game. And we'd invite some team from Memphis, a little Chinese team from Memphis, against the Mississippi Delta-based softball players. And it was such fun. We'd cheer, and everybody afterwards would come to our house, and we'd have fried chicken and watermelon. And we just have a wonderful
Yeah.
celebration
Go
to
us.
continue.
Swap screens.
And
Stop
then,
sharing.
let's see, then Thanksgiving was always at Uncle Charlie's. And we'd have the traditional Thanksgiving food, the Thanksgiving feast, I should say. And then later it moved to the next generation, we would have Thanksgiving at Alice's house. And by then, all of us in our generation loved to cook, but then our children also enjoyed cooking. So it would be an obscene feast with everybody bringing their best dishes. But we would always have turkey and dressing, the traditional American fare. But then we would also have my grandfather's oyster dressing, which has become a tradition, and that he made it, and then my mom's generation made it, and we have it. And who knows, we will continue that after us. But with Thanksgiving, it was always fun. And so then we would go on, moving on to Christmas, which was an amazing celebration. I remember as a child that through the eyes of a child, I remember gifts to the ceiling and how the children would all sing Christmas carols, and then Santa Claus would come. And as we got older, we would try to guess who was Santa Claus. But it was Santa Claus. So we continued that tradition in our generation, and now we do something a little bit different. We read the Christmas story from the Bible with the children. From the oldest to the youngest would have a portion, and then we'd again sing Christmas carols, and then we'd sing Jingle Bells, and then we'd open gifts. That's been our tradition.
Yeah. So anyway, we're here to talk about the Lunar New Year, and it's the most special because in Chinese history, with the Spring Festival and the Fall Festival, New Year's was always the best time. But the important thing about all these celebrations is that they were family time, and so that's what we have. So the Chinese zodiac consists of 12 animals. So you have these, and this sequence is important also. So you have the year of the rat, the ox, the tiger, the rabbit, and so on through the pig. So this will be the year of the tiger after the year of the ox. And then not only do you have the Chinese zodiac, you have the 5 elements of fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. So if you add that to the 12 zodiac animals, it takes 60 years to complete each unique combination. And you would could determine your persona and help decipher the future, your fortune in the future, as you select your mate. And so some people are superstitious and they will consult an astrologer and get very particular and on their which are the appropriate matches and combinations. So this is what they learn. So you have these elements, and so if you compare the calendars, here we are, just celebrated New Year's, January 2022, and whereas February 1st, year of the tiger, and I think it's the water tiger, is going to be 4719, a 2,000-year difference. So they started keeping score a long time ago. Yeah. So the celebration for Chinese New Year's is not a one-day deal with Chinese. It's a 16-day celebration. So you can celebrate any or all of those days to the new moon, from the new moon to the full moon to start the Spring Festival. There are many traditions that have passed through the generations, and New Year's is a time for new beginnings. So if you've been having a hard time with COVID, with sickness and other problems, financial issues, New Year's is a time to fresh start. And so there are certain things you do to make the fresh start. So as you can see, in celebration of the New Year's, we're wearing red.
And jade.
Green and red are symbols of good luck. The red scares off evil spirits, represents optimism, good fortune, protection. It gives life energy, lifeblood, and it's pretty decorations and sets a nice decor with the red. And so Uncle Pap lived to 105, so it must have brought him red good luck, red luck, good luck. And then he's with his great grandniece, Smith there, our daughter's daughter. And you see they're wearing red to start the new year. Here's another shot of Sally and I with our grandchildren, Jack and Emily. They're wearing red, so they're going to have good luck for sure. Yeah, we know about home pals. Everybody knows about home pals. These are red envelopes or red pockets. They transfer the good luck and fortune, and it's passed from one generation to another. It represents fire, the sun, and brightness.
And some of the packages have different meanings. And so you have to be careful that if you're having a happy birthday, you don't give them one that said, congratulations on your wedding or something like that, the double happiness. But anyhow, this one has our name on it. That was really cool.
So they'll know
we found it in the store.
Where it came from.
Must be a popular name.
Yeah, there are more Chows in the world than Smiths, Browns, Joneses put together. Yes. There are certain things that you don't do for New Year's. You don't have sharp things, no knives, scissors, things that will cut your good fortunes. You don't get a haircut. You don't break things. No unlucky words like grief, death. It just brings bad luck. Now, here's one I can't necessarily agree with. No showers.
That one's pretty tough.
Yeah. Wash away good luck.
Maybe you could do it just before midnight or something like
Yeah,
that.
wash just before, just after. But don't wear black or white. Those are unlucky colors, bad colors. There's no sweeping or throwing out garbage.
We do that the night before.
Yes. There are things that you do to prepare for the new year. Yeah, that you have lucky papers written in gold. You see it on the walls of homes and businesses. Wealth, prosperity, longevity, happiness. These are good words, and you're written in gold on a red plaque. And so you see it stylized calligraphy, just many different modes that you'll see these words. So when you go to the restaurant, if you want to show how proficient you are, you just read the word. Oh, that's longevity seal.
Oh, and double happiness.
Double
Everybody
happiness.
knows.
Everybody
happiness.
does that double happiness because you go to weddings. Yeah, so as you prepare, you need fresh flowers, appropriate gifts such as fruit, candy, cookies, nothing in white. Get rid of old debts. Get rid of old debts. Shop for appropriate attire. You want to wear new things because it's a new beginning, a fresh start.
You remember that when I go shopping, okay?
And you want to sweep clean and obtain foods for the feast. So you want to prepare for the new year. What's Chinese New Year's without fireworks? You have set off firecrackers at night to scare off and fight the monsters and the bad luck. There are lots of stories about that. And then you do firecrackers again in the morning and to welcome in the new year and to bring good luck. As a young child, we used to love shooting off fireworks. In New York, they were illegal, but you could go to Chinatown. People say, "Where can I buy fireworks? Where can I buy fireworks?" And it was good.
In Marks, Mississippi, well, for New Year's, we used to light up the town, the small town of Marks, and we would just light up the town with fireworks, and my cousin would just hang them from the telephone poles, and it was just so much fun.
Yeah,
everybody loves fireworks.
Yeah, the lion dance. Does the lion scare you or delight you? He's designed to protect you. the lion is dancing is synchronized with martial arts practitioners, drums, cymbals,
Loud
gong,
drums.
and the massive lion is head with his flowing tail has flapping eyes, flapping jaws, and the eyes bounce up and down, and he follows the ball, which is the priceless pearl. And so it takes a skilled practitioner to manipulate the dragon's or the lion's head. You know, for years and years, we said dragon dance, and then we found out the muflu is really a lion. And so, but then the tail are the other dancers that I heard that in New York, or maybe it was in San Francisco, they had a lion that was 200 feet long. So
Wow.
just imagine twisting and turning and dancing in front of each. A lot of practice, and because there is a do it, and then at the end, you reward the troop with red packages or those hong baos, that lucky money. Yeah. So New York, you know, we've talked about in New York, we just went to Chinatown and went to a restaurant.
Well, it's a little different here. You know, we growing up, there were not many Chinese restaurants around, and we had to be the restaurant. We would have our woks cooking on the outside. We would thankfully had walk-in refrigerators from our grocery store so we can store the food, but we had to prepare it on our own. And we actually had someone in town, Kim Wong, would bring his friends to do the lion dance. And it was pretty scary as a child, but it was so much fun. But, you know, traditions we like to carry on. I know my niece, Andrea Pang, wanted to have the lion dance at her wedding. So, you know, it's not such just for New Year's, it's for celebrations.
Yeah, and that was in New Orleans where she had an Asian troupe available to do that
It's
because
really
they did
cool.
the whole thing. They didn't just do part of it; they had the whole troupe with all the gongs and cymbals. But I couldn't get over how almost terrified our grandchildren were
Oh.
to at the.
Well, it's so loud.
They're not used to that huge drum
Mhm.
that is pounded on. Okay, so you can't have a meal without having a proper menu. So the foods that you eat will help determine the year that you will have, how your wealth, your health, and your happiness depend on eating the right foods. But then it also depends on what part of China you're from. In northern China, you're going to have dumplings. In Toisan or southern China, you're going to have spring rolls, glutinous rice balls, and soup. You're going to have fat choy, that is the seaweed dish. And in Mississippi, you're going to have black-eyed peas with pigtails and collard greens or cabbage, something green, leafy to bring you money, green, something green. So how do you prepare so many dishes? You know, you have this big menu. Well, first you have a big family.
Big families are really nice, especially big families who love to cook. And that's our family.
Right. So which family doesn't have a big green egg to smoke a tenderloin or smoke a turkey or smoke ribs or
Who has a big outdoor walk?
right.
Well, we
Exactly.
have our children all have the big outdoor walk. We made sure that they had them, and they just love it because it's so fast cooking. It fascinates their friends. I'm going to cook this up in no time. But do you want to hear about cooking fat choy soup?
Yeah, why don't you take us through fat choy?
Well, what's fat choy is actually dried seaweed. I don't know if you can see this, but I'm going to tell you what it looks like. It looks like a Brillo pad, a giant Brillo pad. But when you put it in water, it just gets huge, and it's just wonderful. It looks a little strange, but I use the recipe, or try to use the recipe my mom used. And what she did to make it go further, because this Brillo pad looking seaweed is very expensive. So to make it go a little further, Mom would mix it with saffron. And this is it rice noodles
Rice vermicelli.
and by rice vermicelli. And so we would put a little bit of that in it and make sort of a souffle, I guess you'd almost say. And would use chicken broth to make a sort of a thick soup. So we'd have seaweed, saffron, and just season it with salt and pepper, and then steam it. And so it becomes a little yellow cake. And then I would, when it cools, I would cut it into little squares. And so there are different dishes to use. You might see this stir fry bok choy. And we like to use it with tofu for those who enjoy tofu, because tofu takes on the flavor of everything else. Celery, cabbage, snow peas, and a light gravy to bring it all together. So that would be stir fry bok choy. But something that we use a lot is bok choy soup. And this is a little more, well, I guess both of them are a little bit complicated, but to do the soup, let's just talk about making chicken broth, because to have a good soup, you have to have good chicken broth. And to have good chicken broth, you need to have it very rich. And so I'm putting in the ingredients that I remember Mom used to put in hers. You'd have to have chicken, of course, but I find that you can get chicken legs and thighs at the grocery store for a very reasonable price. And so used legs and thighs. And then my friend Martin Yan suggested putting chicken feet into this. And it also gives a little very rich flavor to it. But my brother Dean says, you know what? The best collagen that you can get for your joints is in chicken feet. So that's for your information to help you with your joints, everybody. Okay, Mom said you cannot make good chicken broth without neck bones. So you got to have neck bones. And then, so this is all we put in it. Some people put celery and all that, but we just like to have the basic chicken flavor. So you would bring it to of course, you'd fill your stock pot up with water.
A big
And
pot.
yeah, I would say the way we do it, we have a 16-quart and it's really a lot, but then I'll freeze some of it, what I don't use for the soup. So you would bring this to a slow boil. You don't want it to just boil really hard, because it would make your soup cloudy. No one wants to have cloudy soup. It must be clear. And to do this, you need to bring it to a slow boil and simmer it for at least 6 hours. And we like to do it overnight, and we may simmer it for 12 to 15 hours and to really get a good rich broth. But anyway, 6 hours is plenty, but we just like to do it a little bit further. Now, that's how you do the broth. But then, of course, we have our bok choy that we've already cut into little squares. But something else we like to add is hog maw, or is it pig stomach? And you probably
Same thing.
yeah, you have to parboil this into. My mom would say, you gotta, I can say, yeah, G2, and you pull out the fat and cut it into little pieces, and you would parboil it first, of course, so you can get all those the fat out. But then you would cut it up and put that in the soup, and then you would use red dates as a flavor. And then my favorite thing is food chuck, and I like to use the round food chuck and cut it into little. After you soak it, you would cut it into smaller pieces. And of course, no Chinese soup would be correct without dried mushrooms. So we would have that also. But to flavor it, you have to taste it. And sometimes, you would use chicken bouillon maybe. And of course, salt, but taste it as you go along. But I believe, and let's simmer that. till and let it just marry, as they say. Put a lid on it, let simmer and marry for a little while. And so that would be your fat choy soup. And our children like it. You know, we look at it, you know, with the Brillo pad and we go, wow, how strange. But my daughter says, you know, I can't believe I really like this. This is really good.
Yeah.
But going on also, we have black-eyed peas. We want to do that?
Yeah. Well, let's hold it.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Chinese New Year menu in the Delta will include a roast chicken, the whole chicken, head and all, roast pork, spare ribs, cooked in a loo and cooked on charcoal, steamed whole fish.
Caught by my brother Audrey.
Yeah. Black-eyed peas with pigtail.
Well, do I get to talk about the black-eyed
No,
peas?
let me give the whole menu first and
Go ahead.
okay. And then you can go back to the specifics. Stir-fried collard greens, fat choy stir fry, the Delta fried rice,
With bacon.
sticky rice, and then for desserts, these sponge cake, pea pods, or dantats. So now we can talk about each specific dish, but you want to have a complete menu to have good luck, wealth, health, and prosperity throughout the year. So you do it with a proper menu,
Okay.
not pak cham kai.
Can't have that white chicken. It's bad luck.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you a little bit about the black-eyed peas. And everybody has their own recipe. It's a Southern dish that we have tried to adapt it to our Chinese traditions too. But we like to use of course, you can go to the freezer, but we like to use the dried black-eyed peas. And we soak it in chicken broth. Just get a box of chicken broth and let it soak overnight, and it's ready to go. But we make the broth to cook it in out of ham hocks. So you make a broth with that, and you add your pre-soaked black-eyed peas. And we're going to season it with pigtails. Yes, you heard me right, pigtails. And the way we do pigtails, your very kind grocer would cut up the pigtails for you into smaller pieces. But I like to fat bust it a little bit. And so, yeah, what is fat busting? You get rid of as much fat as you can. So I like to season the pig feet a little bit with garlic, black pepper, and salt. And then I'll bake it at 350 degrees for 35 minutes or 45 minutes until the fat begins to render out. And then you know you're ready. Well, then I may put it in some boiling hot water and boil it out just to get a little bit soft. But then it's ready to go in the black-eyed peas. And you add a little bit of minced onion. That's just really good. And I like to add maybe a couple of star anise in it. Little, very subtle flavor, but it blends well with it. And I like to do that. But my friend Jean and her husband Steve told me, here's the secret to using dried beans. Do not stir. And so they were right, because if you don't stir it, the beans will be so much prettier than mushed together if you stir it. So remember, do not stir until you're ready. And that's how you make delicious black-eyed peas. Don't forget the black pepper.
Okay, let me show you what some of these dishes look like. A Andrew Chow caught fish either in Sardis Lake or the Mississippi River, steamed black bass.
I have to interrupt.
Okay, go ahead.
One time a group came down to interview us about Chinese in the Mississippi Delta, and they said, well, show us where you buy your fish at the fish market. We would like to show the people that. And I said, fish market? No, you don't understand. You're in the Mississippi Delta. If we want fish, we have to go and catch the fish. And luckily, my brother Audrey is a fisherman. And so he supplies us with all the fish we want. So there it is, Audrey's bass.
Yeah, they're anywhere from a 1.5 to 6 pound black bass, and they are wonderful. And
Fresh fish, you
yeah,
can't beat fresh
yeah,
fish.
frozen fish, it works, but you can't beat the
Yeah.
fresh.
Fresh is best.
Yes. One of the things, here's a picture of Dean and Young, Sally's brother, wearing his Ole Miss shirt, but
And it-
Young in her red top, washing collard greens that were picked that morning. So they're fresh and they'll be ready for their stir-fried collard
you want to
greens.
hear the story about the collard greens?
Sure.
Well, my son Bradley was at Mississippi State, and which is not far from Columbus, where Dean and Young live. And of course, they're so kind and said and would invite Bradley over for dinner quite often. And so one time, Bradley came home and says, Aunt Young made the best greens. Mom, you've got to find out what it is. So I asked Young, what is this vegetable that you have got my son to eat that he just loves? And she says, well, Matthew likes gailan, and there aren't any Chinese vegetables around. So I looked for a substitute, and she found collard greens. And so that is what she calls fake gailan, would be collard greens. And so it became a thing for us. We stir fry collard greens. And it's just wonderful. Good sub.
Good. Now, we said we had needed an appropriate dessert.
Absolutely.
So tell them
Dessert.
about Aunt Alice's pea pods.
I remember years and years ago, my Aunt May's mother used to make these pea pods that were wonderful. Well, she would make them, from scratch. She would make the dough and everything. They'd be paper thin and just perfect. But now, we adapt to what is available. So Alice uses, my sister-in-law, Alice, she's the maker. She uses wonton skins and makes a crunchy pea pod using peanuts and a little bit of sugar, just a little bit, and coconut. And she brings it together. They're called peanut and sesame seeds inside of it. It's delicious. And so Audric fries it for her outside in the wok because it uses
Pretty
less
golden
grease.
brown.
Pretty good.
Yep.
Oh, we didn't talk about the other dessert would be sponge cake. And
Well, I
that
don't have a
is,
picture of that.
oh, you don't
You
have
go
a,
ahead.
okay. The other dessert we like to have is sponge cake. And I like to use Aunt Wanda's sponge cake recipe because she was just known for her sponge cake. And Charlie gave me the recipe and it's pretty good. Very popular. And guess who else loves sponge cake? Of course, for Gilroy's birthday, I have to have sponge cake for him, Aunt Wanda's sponge cake. But we also use it for New Year's. You got to have sponge cake. So, here's one of braised pigtails.
That's how you prepare it for.
That's how you prepare. That's the before picture. But we also have pig's feet. And that's something else that we use everything, every part of the animal. And so we do pig feet, which a lot of people have memories from, I remember Mom used to make that. But pig feet, it's not that hard to do. I sort of just figured it out that your grocer would cut it up for you if you're really nice to him, and he'll do that for you. But I like to parboil it first using anise. But a lot of people, I understand, like to use vinegar, and that kind of cuts the stickiness a little bit too. So use a vinegar flavor. And after it gets soft, and we love each other, but he likes his a little bit firmer than I do. I like the really soft skin. So I take it out a little bit early for him, and then I cook it the way I like it. But season it with soy sauce and again anise, and it's amazing. This soy sauce, you dip it in a liquid solution of soy sauce and Chinese brown sugar, I think.
Yeah, there's the brown sugar.
Oh yeah, that's comes in sticks, and there's the anise. Yes. This is Gilroy's dish. People, we have we share our fried rice with people in our church and in the community. And they always say, oh, Sally, you do such a good job. And I have to say, well, actually, It's Gilroy's fried rice that he makes, but I help him and I do a lot of the quick chopping.
Yeah, like any other dish, it only takes a few minutes to prepare, but the prep time
That's
can
what
be
it takes.
hours. And so you start with cured ham, and then you have eggs for the color and the taste and the protein. You have bacon bits. And that's what makes it Delta fried rice. The bacon bits and the ham.
We all know bacon goes good with everything.
Yeah, it makes everything better.
Oh,
And so you see the
drippings.
grease, the drippings.
Drippings. I make it sound healthy, okay? Drippings.
Drippings. So these are the secret ingredients of Delta fried rice.
Secret. You told us. You told our secret.
Yeah. Well, here's the secret to tasty char siu. You cook it in a lu, which is a 55-gallon drum. Cooked
That my
in
engineer
charcoal.
husband made himself, custom made.
Well, anyway, that's how you do it. But I'm doing it like Uncle John did and Kenny did. The generation before me, this is the way they cooked it. And you notice on the ring is on the outside of the drum, not across the charcoal, but around the charcoal. So the drippings, you don't have flare-ups and you don't end up with burnt char siu. Nobody likes burnt char siu.
We like a little singe though.
We like a little singe, so you have plenty of heat from the charcoal. Here's a look with a visit from Andrew Zimmern. When he traveled the Blues Trail from Memphis to Jackson, he made a stop in Clarksdale, and I didn't want to tell him that our house had burned. So we went to our brother-in-law's house, who has a good-sized kitchen with an island and a large carport, which happened to be the perfect setting because it poured down rain that day.
A storm you would not believe.
Came up, and we were all in the carport with 6 woks cooking all at one time. So what do you cook for Andrew Zimmern and bizarre foods? I told them when they came to visit, we don't have bizarre foods. We have special foods.
Cooked by bizarre people.
Yeah. And so what does it include? A typical Chinese New Year meal. So you see the black-eyed peas with pigtails. You see the roast pork. You see the stir-fried collard greens. You see the steamed whole fish. And you see a family, many dressed in red, some in bad luck, white and black, but
It wasn't New Year's that
it wasn't
day.
New Year's, but you can see the menu and the foods.
I like
kinda
the Ole Miss
prepared.
t-shirt Dean's got on. I like your shirt, Dean. It looks good. Audric too. Thank you, Audric.
Yeah. And well, we have a son-in-law in there, not ours, with an Alabama shirt, but that's okay.
I'm going to help you out a little bit, honey, in case your buddies say something to you. Gilroy actually has a Mississippi State shirt on. You just can't see the emblem.
Yeah, but all that to say that we get lots of practice cooking these dishes. And again, you can have a large menu with lots of food when you have a large family that knows how to cook and makes things and nothing gets left over. You know that if your dish gets left over, bad luck, bad luck. Mhoyilu. Yeah, moving right along, there is some drinking involved and there's protocols to what to do with the white wine. There are protocols with the food, you serve them whole, and you have the special menu items, but to adapt. So in Mississippi, you don't have Chinatown, you don't have grocery stores, so you adapt. And so we
You
have
do
the
it
Delta
yourself.
fried rice, you catch your fish, you catch your chickens or raise your chickens even. And so it goes. An interesting thing happened. Vivian Howard from PBS, she has cookbooks, restaurant, she's a TV personality, and she wanted to do a dumpling episode. And we said, oh, well, we don't do dumplings.
I told her, you know, we love dumplings. And when we want dumplings, we go to the restaurant and have dim sum. And we have our favorite restaurant, Asian Palace in Memphis, and they have a huge selection, and everything, we say it, is delicious. And we enjoy going there. But it was, she wanted something made, homemade. And so we checked with my cousin Carol.
Yeah, Carol, she said, well, you know, when my daddy and mommy used to make their tea, I got to help. When you finish the dumpling, you put a little red dot on the top with dipping it in the chopstick. And she
For
got
good luck.
And she got to put the red dot on it. Well, we put her on the spot, and she pulled out her daddy's pan that had holes poked in it for steaming. And so it's a meat and dough dumpling, and she made them for us. And so she made them for PBS and Vivian Howard. You can catch that episode on PBS. They have reruns. But
Good job,
you know,
Carol.
how did the Chinese end up in Mississippi? Well, we know that the 1882 Exclusion Act limited the U.S. to 105 people a year for the whole country. And parallel legislation to that banned Chinese women until it was repealed in 1943. And then it wasn't until 2014 that an act of was passed by Congress of regret. And so this probably had an effect on sending the Chinese. So there are grocery stores in every hamlet, and that sold sundries, medicine, meat, vegetables, fruit, as well as pots, pans, washboards, and so on. They're a source of everyday life in so many communities. We counted at least 1,200 in the peak period. If you say 1960, there were 25 stores, Chinese grocery stores in Clarksdale alone, over 50 stores in Greenville.
Population of 20,000 at the peak. So that's a lot of grocery stores for a small community. There were 4 on the corner. It was just amazing.
Yeah, so this is Sally's family, her mom with 9 uncles and aunts. They're not all in this picture because by 1922, they weren't all born. So the Chinese have been in Mississippi a long time. This is the 10 brothers and sisters in 1972.
My mom was the oldest.
Yeah. The only reason showing this picture of Sally and her 3 brothers is that of her family, they all lived in Mississippi all their lives. 2 pharmacists, a dentist, and a school teacher. On the other hand, here's the extended family. And this was 20 years ago, and the family has grown since then. But the family still owns land and farm, although nobody's a farmer in Mississippi. So, you know, on the other hand, my family of 6, all born in Mississippi, I'm the only one that came back to Mississippi.
The smartest one stayed in Mississippi.
Yeah, or came back to Mississippi.
Came back to Mississippi.
So I grew up in New York, and so that's why we celebrated in Chinatowns. But then after Apollo, we came back to Mississippi and have lived here ever since. But if you want to know more about Mississippi and the Mississippi Delta Chinese, there are a number of books. Chopsticks in the Land of Cotton, Dr. John Jung, Robert Cito, Adrian Berard, Joan Nathan, just a wealth of source of information there. So we want to say Gong Hei Fa Choi.
And y'all come see us, you hear?
Yeah, we want you to visit the Mississippi Delta Chinese Heritage Museum
in Cleveland, Mississippi.
And we want to thank Ashley Jenkins and Emily Jones for helping us put together this podcast. We were able to do this so that we could be on the road during the time. But you see the logo of the Mississippi Delta Heritage Museum, Delta State University, and our other partner, the city of Cleveland, who has helped us preserve this history. And so again, y'all come see us, you hear?